Good
while I am
afternoon.
Well, good
I am
getting my screen in
Shanice.
afternoon,
place.
everyone, and welcome to Marketing on a Shoestring with Nate Selah. Hey, Nate, I'm turning everything over to you. We're happy. Oh, well, welcome to the Justin Peterson Presents the Ignite Illinois series. And today's series is Marketing on a Shoestring. Nate, I'm gonna hand it off to you.
All right, thanks. Hey, everybody. Glad you're all here. And this series has been fantastic so far. We're so thankful for our partners at Justine Peterson, Ignite Illinois, everyone who's been a part of it, all of our presenters and speakers, and all of you who have been a part of this experience. It's so important as entrepreneurs, as business leaders, to bind in community and really continue to grow, learn, and use that education that we're fostering so that we can have businesses that are thriving so that we can do more in this world, whether it's in our community, with our families, with our clients, and so on and so forth. So that's very important to us, very important as we, from us, from the Income Tax Center and all of our partners here. So this is a fun webinar we're about to embark on, the marketing one. You can't do much business unless people see you. In fact, it's been said there's three critical questions people have to ask in their businesses when they're trying to make money and fund their operations. Do I know what my customers want and need? Do I have the capacity, the capability to meet those needs? And do I stand out in the crowd? You can have one and two. You can know what your customers want and need. You can have the capacity to meet those needs. But unless you stand out in the crowd, nobody's ever going to see you. And those first two really don't matter, because unless you can be seen, no one can find you to buy your product, to do business with you. So marketing is a critical part of this journey. I've been in business for over 30 years, and I haven't always had full coffers. In fact, sometimes we've had no money. And sometimes marketing on a shoestring, I'm going to go ahead and pull up my PowerPoint here, is the only way to go. And how we do it, friends, is going to be important to the overall experience. So today we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what marketing on a shoestring looks like, some different tactics and plans, and invite you to engage in this conversation around it. You might even have ideas that aren't here. We could go for hours. This could be a day or 3 day long workshop. We're just going to do a quick run of it to kind of give you some ideas and spur on some thinking, and perhaps some things that you've already been doing. It'll reinforce it. Perhaps you may consider doing it with a little tweak or a little differently. And some of this might be completely new to you. And you thought, wow, you know what? It's a great way to approach it. I'm going to add it to my business playbook. So marketing on a shoestring, we can have a big impact with a small budget. You don't have to have millions of dollars to make an impact that affects your awareness, and of course, eventually clients coming to do business with you, and then you supplying and making sure that their needs are met. And we like to say profit is the applause you get from your customers for doing excellent work. So marketing on a shoestring, here we go. I'm going to start with a quick little uh, explanation of me. This is me way back in the day, 1997. I call him a scrappy Nate Salah on Airport Road in St. Louis. I didn't have much money. I was trying everything, and it was not an easy process. But you have to get creative with your marketing, and some of you already are doing that, and have creative processes when you don't have any cash. I was just trying to get by and figure out ways I would have the biggest sign in the neighborhood to let people know what kind of work I did. I would do all kinds of marketing things. I'm going to talk about some of them today as well. Quick poll. If you can put this in the chat, if you can, how much do you currently spend on marketing per month? Per month. So is it $250? Is it $1,000? Is it more than $1,000? If you can't, put it in the chat. I'd love to get this conversation going about marketing budgets. I've spent anywhere from nothing to tens of thousands of dollars on marketing in 1 month. And the results vary widely. A lot of marketing, as you know, can be fruitless. Sometimes it could be fruitful. However, and we'll talk about different budgets and how much we should put into marketing, how we roll. Here's the thing about budgets and whatnot. You know, sometimes you don't need any money at all. You just need a good system and a good hustle. Thanks everybody for contributing that. Quick poll as we get rolling in this. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about these three foundational pieces. I'm going to start here with this marketing piece, and we're going to dispel some myths about marketing. First of all, marketing is not about ads. It's about connections. When we're talking about marketing, we're talking about connecting with people. Think of a friend who recommends a restaurant. That's marketing. Ads only work if they feel like a conversation, not a billboard. That's really important, friends. Marketing for us, it's saying, hey, let's talk about what you need and what I have to offer to help you solve your problems. Because that's really what business is all about. It's about problem solving. And when you're marketing, this, most marketing can seem adversarial. Have you ever been through the mall and that person in the little kiosk is trying to get your eyeball attention and they want to sell you some fragrances or perhaps some lotion? Have you ever, just put a Y or a yes in the chat if you've avoided that person, if you've avoided eye contact, try to scoot around them, right? Or pretend like you're on your phone. You might not even be talking to anybody. You just pick up your phone and pretend like you're talking to somebody. Why is that? They're trying to market to you, right? Here's the reason why, friends. It's because they're a potential adversary. You see, most marketing is considered initially adversarial. Why? Because they're attempting to take something from you, your time and your money. And you don't know if there's enough of a value proposition to release either of those. So you go around that adversary. You try to avoid eye contact. You tell them, I got to go. I already got, you go through Sam's Club or Costco and you see that AT&T person, I already got service. You might even bend the truth a little just to avoid that conversation. Now, here's the difference. Marketing, or selling, if you will, is considered adversarial. Solving problems isn't. See, if you go into this conversation around, I'm not going to attempt to sell things to people. I'm not trying to market to people for the sake of me taking from them. I want to help people solve problems. I want to help people solve their problems. And so you go from what? From adversary to ally, because you went from foe to friend, because you're not just thinking about how can I fill my pockets. You're thinking about how can I make your day better by helping relieve you from some kind of a tension or problem you have. And inevitably, what's going to happen? You're going to applause that relationship with what? Money, right? Profit. That's how I want you to be thinking about this conversation. I want you to lay that foundation. And not only this conversation, moving into the future of how you do business. You may already be thinking about it that way. This just might be an affirmation for you. So that's the idea between marketing. It's about connecting with people in a way that helps them. Not advertising, not a way to say, hey, I want to take your money. I need to sell you some lotion. So in so doing, we really have to define. Remember what I said before and when we first started? Your 3 questions you asked. Do I know what my customers want and need? Do I have the capacity and capabilities to meet those needs? And do I stand out in the crowd? Well, you can't know what your customers want and need unless you define your customer avatar. What's a customer avatar? It's your target, if you will. It's the person who is going to become a raving fan because you stepped in and you helped them solve their problem. So you need to define that. If you've already defined your avatar, fantastic. If you want to define your avatar, just put a Y in the chat. If you want to define your avatar, if you haven't fully defined your avatar, who your ideal customer is, just put a Y in the chat. I'd love to just kind of see who's still working this out. Hey, after all these years, 30 years, we're still redefining our avatar, our person. But here's the thing. If you sell cupcakes, don't target everyone. target moms planning birthdays and then speak to them directly. So and I'm going to go through an exercise here in just a few moments on that target avatar. And then the last piece we're going to talk about in this foundation part of this conversation is what we call the value ladder. Now, if you've had any experience in business, you know it's all about value. People pursue value, no more, no less. Whatever it is, they pursue it because it's valuable to them. It has meaning. So your value ladder is going to be how we create a ladder of value, if you will, for the relationship, right? So perhaps something that's valuable, tangible for free to build trust, and then eventually they become part of your brand. So let's talk about that. Your avatar. Who is your ideal customer? If you put in the chat, if you already know, who's my ideal customer in one sentence, age, gender, role. Do you know that? Can you say who your ideal customer is right now? Maybe they're 35 to 50. Maybe they're a female. Maybe they're a homemaker. You might have a business for, thank you, CC, real estate owners, right? That's a good broad approach, right? And then you can go deeper with who they are as far as their specific demographics, earnings, how many children, what part of the country, et cetera, et cetera. And so then once you've identified your ideal customer, the next step is to go deeper. Thank you very much, Daria. Thank you very much, Tabitha. What problems keep them up at night? What's the pain point your product or your service solves? You see, life is a series of two things. I love the way Jeremy Bentham put it back in the, I want to say 1700s. He wrote a book called on morals and legislation way back in the day. He's actually was one of the progenitors, if you will, of economics. And he said this, he said, all mankind is under the sovereign governance of two masters, pain and pleasure. And they dictate sovereignly how we behave. Of course, as human beings, it hasn't changed. We pursue pleasure and we avoid pain. So when someone interacts with your brand, there's a pain there. There's something that is not fulfilled, some need. What about your business? What's a pain point that your product or service solves? Go ahead and put it in the chat if you can explain one pain point. We're in the tax business, we're in the accounting business, we're in the business consulting business. You know, if you've been in business or if you've been a human being in the United States, taxes hurt. In fact, that is the very first sentence that I put into our advertising. Taxes hurt. Now, does anyone agree with me that taxes hurt? Right? Of course, most people do. They know that's the pain. They don't want to pay more taxes than they're required to. In fact, they know they probably do. So identifying this pain is critical. And then once you've identified the pain, next step, you want to talk about what do they want most? What's their desired outcome? Save time, make money, feel healthier, gain status. So our vision statement for our company is to foster a thriving community of taxpayers who pay the IRS not one red cent more than legally required. Not one red cent more. See, that's a dream outcome for taxpayers. Now, some say, well, I'm good with illegally, but we're not in that boat. So we don't look in an orange jumpsuit, and you don't either. But we can do it legally. You see where I'm going with this, friends? So I'm identifying these critical aspects of this avatar so that this conversation happens, this connection happens, rather than me saying, hey, you got to do business with me. I'm just having a conversation about you. And then you want to identify where they spend their time. Where are they? Where are they gathering? Online, local, community? Because that's where we're going to have a conversation. That's where we're going to connect, where people are. And then once you've identified that, we want to ask the questions, what are some objections? What are some barriers that they may have from doing business with you? Could be a number of things. Price, could be trust hasn't been developed yet. Maybe they're not ready urgency. Maybe they don't fully understand the value. It's important to identify those. List them out. And then once you've done that, really think about what makes them trust a business. What makes them trust you? Is it your reviews or your referrals, authority? How long, one of the questions I was asked for years in the accounting business, one of the first questions, how long have you been doing this, right? Now, if I said I just got started, which I would joke around sometimes, and I'd say, I just started last week, I'm new, but don't worry, I shouldn't make too many mistakes, right? And you could only imagine the look on people's faces when I would say that. And I say, I'm just kidding. I've been at this, whatever, 10, 20, of course, now over 30 years. Because people want to know that you have time in the game, you're credible, and you can get the job done right. We'll talk about that. And then you want to be the one who guides them, at least mentally, through what it'll look like, life after working with you. How's my life going to be better? You see? Those are all questions on Avatar. If you can identify those and lay them all out succinctly, I would encourage you to take a time to exercise and do that. That's part of your understanding this marketing on a shoestring, because once you can do this consistently, then you'll find the people who you'll be able to serve well, and they will be served well. All right. So hopefully that helps. We'll make sure to keep his PowerPoint available. We'll get it to the team so that they can distribute it to you as well, so that you'll have it available for you. The next is the value ladder we just talked about. This is a great exercise for you in business. If you haven't already done it, first you start with something for nothing. I say give your best stuff away. And that just could be content, an idea, right? What can you give away? Ask the question that builds trust. Go ahead and put it in the chat. What can you give away that builds trust and connection with a potential customer? Maybe a free tip on social media, time. Thank you, Hayden. A checklist, a 10-minute consultation, some kind of a sample. What can you give away that builds trust? Usually we get phone calls quite a bit for referrals and people wanting to learn about what we offer for them. We always give away free content like, hey, I'm struggling with this tax issue. I just had a person last night who wanted to talk about bookkeeping and said, oh man, we've had all these years and we haven't done anything, don't know what to do. So, okay, well, let me give you some options. Let me tell you what you can do, and let me tell you how that all works. And this is all free. I didn't charge for any of that. And I said, you can do it yourself. You can hire a freelancer, just someone to come out. You can hire a firm, a larger firm like us. And the cost, of course, will increase as you go out from doing it yourself to the freelancer to a larger firm. And I was just transparent and honest. I said, you may not have the budget to work with us right now. We're happy to look at the tax returns when you're ready, and we're happy to help you any way along the way. That was a very stimulating conversation. That's a conversation that built trust because I gave away some free value. How about you? Think about that. And then once you've done that, then you can take the next step. Step 2, identify an entry offer. What's the first low-cost product or service someone can buy from you? Maybe a $29 workshop or some kind of an intro product, a trial, right? Getting them acclimated to you, like you're dating. Remember, for those of you who were dating back in the day, right? When I first met my future wife on the dance floor way back in the 90s, I had to tell you that story another day. We just talked, right? We just talked, got to know each other. This is getting to know each other. And then you can share a core offer, then you can share a premium offer, and then a dream offer. It doesn't have to be in this order necessarily. This is just a ladder of value. Here's the point. Every rung on the ladder should lead naturally to the next. Customers start at some kind of free value, low risk, then a core offer, then a premium, then a dream. Your business may not work exactly like that, but there are ways that you can redesign this value ladder so that you can create a lasting relationship, right? Okay, that's the value ladder. We would be remiss if we didn't talk about location, location, location. You've heard that phrase. Now today, physical location isn't always the case, but that's important for those of you who have foot traffic and in-store experience. I'm going to show you some examples of that. that we've had in the past, whether it's a virtual location, of course, your website is critically important. Sometimes it's a mental location. And so being known for one thing in customers' minds, here's the thing about mental location. Everybody wants a go-to person. Everybody wants one person they can trust in every industry. You know this. I know this. You want a trusted accountant, attorney, physician, mechanic. Back in the day when we used to do lots of car stereos and electronics, I had to have my electronics guru who can hook up my 12-inch subs in the back of my car so I could rattle all the cars and set off their Viper alarms back in the day, right? Now, who are you? Are you that person to people? Are you that mental person who they go to every single time? That's a mental location as well. So these are important. This is back in the day, our location at Northwest Plaza. If you've ever been to Northwest Plaza way back in the day, it was hopping in the 90s. I had a little location on Airport Road, and I needed to expand. I had about 300 to 350 tax clients, and I wanted to get to where I had more visibility because visibility is essential in marketing. And so I opened up there in the mall. I actually strategically placed myself at the entrance of Sears. And for those of you who remember, H&R Block used to be in Sears. I don't know if you guys remember that. So back in the day, so I said, well, all these people will be going to H&R Block and maybe they'll see my sign and they'll say, hey, I'm going to check you out. Tell me more about your tax products. And you can see, I don't know if you can see it from these pictures, but it's really small. It's kind of blurry. It says on the left picture, it says 24-hour refunds and free estimates on the right side. Those are strategic and on purpose. And actually, that's me. You can barely see me. You can see a much younger version of me right there in the window. And so this was an experiment, and I was identifying, okay, what did the avatar want the most? Number one, the free estimates. They want to get an idea what they were getting back. Two, they wanted their money fast. This is back to knowing my avatar. Friends, we had about 300 clients. I want you to put in the check. Take a guess how many clients. That's my banner. Yes, sir. That's out on North. That is that banner. That's another piece. That was on Highway 70 there. That was on Highway 70. Same thing. It's your money. Get it fast. They want their money quick, right? Look at this. Look at the sign. No hassles. Drop and shop. 24-hour refunds. You got to know what your avatar wants. Be quick. Be bulleted. Be intentional about their needs. So, quick poll. I had 300 clients. We had 300 clients the year before. When we moved to Northwest Plaza, put a number in. Take a guess how many clients we had the year we moved into Northwest Plaza. Just put a number in. I went from 300 to what? Oof, April, dang. 300 to what? Put a number in. Put a number in. We'll take a little poll. See who's closest. That was an incredible year, a year of learning, a year of growth. Yeah, all around there. Okay, good. They're coming in. Okay, we got a couple thousands, a 650, a 2,000, a 3,600. I wish it was 3,600. We pretty close, kind of right in the middle of that. 1,500 clients, friends. 1,500. Thank you, everybody, for putting their numbers in. 1,500 clients. That's a 500% increase. Imagine if in one year you had a 500% increase in your business. Would that be a good year? You better believe it, right? What changed? What changed? The service didn't change. I had the same team, had the same product. I was the same person. It was simply how I positioned the location and the messaging. Game changers. Game changers. We were on the map. In fact, my accountant, because we had someone else do our corporate returns because I didn't do them at the time. We only did individual, said, you're doing more tax returns than me, and I've been in business for 20 years. Friends, that was 2001. I only been in business for 6 years. See the power of that? There's great power in the location. And so not just your physical location, but also the location of your website. Is it clean? Is it clear? Your website is like your storefront nowadays. Does it attract people? Does it send the right message? I read an article once about a website that was for mattresses. And they had changed, they had dollar signs at first on the background because they were a discount mattress store online, and they did some business. They changed those dollar signs to clouds, and they tripled their business. Just changing it from dollar signs to clouds. Can you believe that? Why? Because the clouds reminded people of softness, and they're like, oh, well, it's nice. It's the sky. I can be looking at the sky while I'm resting. You see, it's just a matter of changing how your avatar reaches you and how they see you. Those are all critical aspects of it. So here's, these free and nearly free tactics. Google business and profile reviews. I can't understate the value of these reviews online. They cost you nothing but time to go after those reviews. I'm going to show you something here. If you could see this, this is one of our colleagues and one of our clients and one of my students, if you will, in our leadership program. See to it clean. Look at the number of reviews they have. I don't know if you can see that. They have 252 Google reviews, 4.9. Now they haven't been in business that long, just a few years now. They set a benchmark on going after 5-star reviews. And those reviews make a difference when it comes to credibility. People are looking for you. Now, if you're going to look for two different window cleaning companies and you see one that's got 252 Google reviews, it's a 4.9, you see another one that's a 4.2 or 4.1 or a 3.8, which one are you normally going to gravitate toward at first? You're going to go toward the one with the highest reviews. That's great marketing. And how does this person do it? Well, it's very simple. They simply, after every transaction and before every transaction, they say, hey, if we do great work, would you be okay with me asking you for a review? It really helps. And then the client says, sure, I'm happy to do that. Most of them say, sure, I'm happy to do that. Mind you, if you do it before, if I give you great service, why? Because that commitment has a multifold purpose. One, I'm making a commitment to do great work. We're going to talk more about that later. Two, you've then committed to following through on your side if I've done great work. So then when you do ask for the review, they've already committed to it. It's harder after the fact and saying, hey, now that I've done great work, would you give me a review? But before the fact, you can say, hey, I'm so glad you're thrilled with the services that we provided. And I'm so glad that you've agreed to give us that 5-star review. We are so appreciative of it. Here's the link. And then they follow up and make sure that review went through. And then they follow up once it went through and thank them again for the review. There's work involved. That work has massive reward. Don't ever underestimate the power of these reviews. Does anyone on the call, do you currently seek out reviews? If you do, just put a yes in the chat. Put a yes in the chat if you do. During tax season, we do the same thing. Say, hey, if you love the service, would you give us a review? We'd be honored by that. And you'd be surprised how many people want to do that. They want to bless your business like you've blessed them. So don't hesitate to do that. Add that to your toolbox. Add that to your tactical toolbox. What about referrals? Referrals and partnerships are a free or nearly free way to foster your marketing edge. Think about where your raving fans are. Who are the people who are your current customers or former customers who love to send you business? Hey, acknowledge them. Explain how thankful you are for them. Give them a little extra. They will continue to be your raving fan. I can't tell you how many of our clients have been like, hey, you've got to see so-and-so. You got to see the income tax center guys. You got to go see Nate and the team. And that is important. Not only that, but your own journey as a leader in your business is really dependent on thinking about who most values the relationship. Who is it that values the relationship you have? Sometimes it is a referral partner, such as somebody from a different industry who wants to send you business. For us in the income tax and accounting world, Financial advisors want to send us business, insurance folks, and we want to reciprocate that and say, hey, you need to go see so-and-so if you don't have X, Y, and Z done. And so who is it that could be a referral partner that you could send them business and they could send you business? Is there anyone in your industry, if you put in the chat, that you have as a referral partner, that you would do business with them, and maybe another industry that you might be referring back and forth to? Foster those relationships. And then the third part about referrals and partnerships is when you're thinking about who would even refer to you, you need to be thinking about your own competence and your own character. Because when someone refers someone to you, they're handing off trust, right? They're saying, hey, you trust me. Now trust me with these individuals, this company, to help you solve that problem. So you have to look at your own competence, in other words, how well you perform and get the job done, and your character, doing the right thing for the right reasons. In fact, Stephen Covey once said in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, that trust is built on these two pillars, competence and character. And marketing can only take you so far without trust. Trust is what gets people to walk alongside of you to solve their problems. The last piece of referral and networking piece is what we call creative guerrilla marketing. Now, I've always done some of this. You are walking advertising. Am I right? Big white chat. We're all walking advertising. For years, I shared people, businessmen, and wherever I am, if I'm looking at a car, I'm talking to a dealer, and what do you do? I own an account. Who does taxes, right? Oh man, I've been looking for somebody. You guys pretty good? Absolutely, we love working with car dealers. We specialize in this industry. Man, get your card. We've got a network of car dealers right now. I was at the St. Charles license office getting a license for one of our locations years ago. This was back in 2010, standing in line. And there was a gentleman who was also getting a license for his new business, a laundromat. And we struck up a conversation. He said, hey, man, I'm just starting my business. I'm going to need an accountant. Like, done. Let's hook you up. He's been a client ever since. 15 years later, you are walking advertising wherever you go, with character, with authenticity, with assurity. Share what value you bring to the marketplace. Don't do it because you're trying to close a sale. Do it because you never know who might need you that day. Wherever you go, you are the walking advertising. And to this day, we have clients coming in all the time asking about the conversation we had at the ball game or wherever it might be, exchanging numbers. I was buying, I was texting with a guy just the other day, and I was looking at buying his car, speaking of cars, and he had just started a business, and he's like, hey, I need some help. It's like, okay, let's do it. Next, I want to talk about social media, because social media is an important way to utilize marketing efforts that have very little cost, if nothing, sometimes. And so I want to talk a little bit about mixing it up on social media and how we do that. And I'll show you some pictures and things like that of how I've done it for an example. So what I like to do on social media is use it for business. I don't know if you guys use your social media for business. If you have a business page, if you use your personal social media for business, and I do some personal, but mostly business on it. So you can see this is a post that I put up on our leadership group when we went on a trip. I take my entrepreneurs to different places. This was Washington, D.C. And so that shares the experience of others. So it's important on your social media, if you do use social media, to share the experience of people in your business, in your community, not just always about yourself. It's and then some advertising from your business. Nothing wrong with that. Hey, tax day's over. This is actually one of my clients who put this on their post, and I shared it as well. The rotation, staying top of mind with the rotation. Even a post a day is not a bad idea. If you are currently using social media, just put a yes or a Y in the chat for business. And then also, it's fun to sometimes just be silly, as long as it's appropriate. I actually posted this, I want to say this morning, and I don't know if you can see it. I had this shirt on yesterday at the office. It said, got home from work, looked in the mirror, and realized the message of the day wasn't so holy. So my shirt says, be holy, but the whole day, because I had a shirt over it, I have my plaid shirt over it. I'm not going to say what it says. You can just look at it yourselves. I was a little embarrassed when I got home, and nobody in the office told me what I was advertising all day, but I guess they all found it kind of funny. They just wanted me to figure it out on my own. So anyway, be careful. But I made it into a fun post, and it's probably got 50, 60, 70. It'll probably hit 100 likes and laughs and comments today. And it's integrated. It's integrated into my business. It's integrated to my personal life. It's integrated, and people are attracted to that. And naturally, people want to know who you are. Because here's the thing, friends, people do business with people who believe what you believe. Let that one sink in just a minute. People do, when all things being equal, when I mean things being equal, pricing and promotion and the product and the deliverables are in line. People are going to gravitate to do business with people who believe what they believe. You do business with people who believe what you believe when you know what their beliefs are. That's just how humanity works, because beliefs are based on values, and values are shared. And in community, we want to bind with people who share our values. That doesn't mean there's not diversity. Of course, there's always going to be diversity. We want diversity. However, that's really important for your avatar and your marketing, to know how to structure your conversations around shared interests, shared beliefs, shared experiences. That's critical. Once had a client, a potential client, who had just retired from the theaters, Marcus Theaters, and was a director of all the Marcus Theaters. And I said, I got two questions for you. Well, the first question is, why is it that the popcorn is always so salty? And he started laughing, because I know it's a rhetorical question. Of course, we know why it's salty. Go ahead and put it in the chat. If you know why popcorn at the theater is always so salty, put it in the chat. I know why it is. I suspect most of you probably know why it is as well. Come on, somebody put it in the chat. I need some engagement here, friends. Come on, come on. This isn't just Nate Salah. This is everybody. That's right. Thank you, Cameron. Yes, yes, absolutely. They want you to buy that $7, $8, $10 soda or water or whatever it is to quench that thirst, or to mix it with something. I always like to take the popcorn and mix it with the Raisinets, or the little peanut ones. What are the peanut ones called? Whatever those are called. And eat a little, because the salt and the sugar and all that go really well together. That's just me. That's just me. But good stuff. So we open the conversation. This is a referral, potential client. This isn't a client yet. And so then I said, I said, I just not too long ago finished my PhD work, and I studied Walt Disney and Steve Jobs and Milton Hirsch. And I was talking about Walt Disney in the theaters, and I was talking about his approach and how he designed his movies. We had a very common interest in that. He was very focused on the experience in the movie theater, and he knew a lot about Walt Disney. And so what did we have? We had a shared interest. We had some shared beliefs about how this experience happens. Guess what? Do you think he became a client? Of course he did, right? As long as everything else is equal, the pricing was acceptable and the deliverables were acceptable. We shared a bond. I've had that so many times. People say, "Oh, I've talked to 7, 8 firms, and you're number 9, and I want to do business with you," because we believed a similar thing. And I'm going to talk to you about some slippery slopes on that in just a few moments. But there's an important piece to that, knowing who you are and knowing how you present yourself to talk about those shared beliefs. And sometimes it's important to share some of your beliefs that are personal. You got to be very careful about that. I'm going to share, I do a podcast called A Call to Leadership, and I talk about matters of faith in business. I talk about how we can thrive in business by moving into a deeper spiritual center. And I talk a lot about Christian leadership and so on my podcast, and it ends up on my social media. Now, some people may say, oh, I'm not going to do business with that guy because he's a Christian. That's understandable. However, that is my model for leadership. That's my model for business. Now, I don't require people to be Christians or even of faith to work here. However, they have to share in the values that are essential to our business, which is, of course, to care extraordinarily and to think innovatively, to walk credibly, and to grow purposefully. Those are all our shared core values. We look at our business. We have a lot of scripture around our office. And so people have to be okay with that. However, what happens in that, people who do share in those values naturally are gravitating toward our business. So those are things that are important as well. Keep in mind, though, there are things that we must never do. And I don't usually use the word never, but I want to say these are a really slippery slope in social media. Number one, mixing business with politics. Listen, friends, or any controversial topics, they're too much for the public sphere of business. And so I would highly recommend we stay away from, political views and things like that. You say, Nate, I'm doing it. I don't care. That's fine. However, I think you're going to get more business if you keep those in private conversations. So, for example, if a bakery posts about a political issue, half the audience unfollows and engagement can plummet. So keeping your business feed about serving the customers, not about stirring division, not about debate, but for the value is important. So I would recommend stay away from political conversations other than just explaining how they may affect your business. Don said that several times in some of these conversations. Hey, the new administration, I've had more trouble with my business because of some of the policies. Hey, that's not a political debate. That's simply facts about a situation. You see, there's a difference there than saying things that are perhaps offensive about a certain individual or a certain administration. Just you can state facts about how it affects your business and how it affects your customer. Another not to do in the marketing on your social is to make sure that you're professional.
Going on the set. Baby, I'm gonna put that on right now.
We're gonna blurry photos, inconsistent logos, personal rants, all that make your business look sloppy. So treat social media like your digital storefront. You wouldn't hang a crooked sign outside of your shop.
From years ago.
So don't post messy content online. Same concept. Okay. Yep.
So
Lastly, don't sell without serving. Every post, if it says buy now or book now with no value, people turn out to that. So I like the 80-20 rule. 80% value, tips, fun comments, community, education, 20% direct promotion. You need to build trust first, and then the sale comes after that. Okay, so those are some do's and don'ts. All right, moving right along. Okay, let's talk about stretching small dollars as we get ready to close here. If you don't currently have a budget, start with a small one, $5, $10 a day. It could be ads on Facebook or different places that will stretch your dollar. Boost what's already working in terms of your dollar spending. I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on radio. They don't really work for us. So I quit doing that. And I started boosting it in different ways, client referral programs, things like that. And then track your ROI or your return on your investment in plain English. You need to do some math or have someone do some math on, hey, how is this turning into new customers for us or new leads? And then focus on your mindset. I want you to think about your marketing mindset. Don't confuse activity with results. So don't confuse and say, well, I'm so busy at this. Why isn't it working? You know, posting every day without purpose is like shouting in an empty room. Better to post twice a week with a plan. That's what this means. And consistency beats intensity. So it doesn't mean, again, a very similar concept. If a gym ad runs for 2 days, it doesn't work. Okay, well, let's do it a steady weekly ad for 2 months. Okay. And then look at marketing not as an expense, but as an investment. You know, spending $500 that brings back 2,000. It's not a cost. It's growth fuel for you. All right. I'm going to tell you about the best marketing, the most effective marketing right now. So if you haven't been fully tuned in, now's your time to fully tune in these last few minutes. The most effective marketing, the most effective marketing. It's real simple, friends. It's quality. The most effective marketing you're going to have is the quality of the experience you create. Milton Hershey once said, give them quality. That's the best kind of advertising. And of course, I think everyone here, unless you're chocolate intolerant, has experienced Milton Hershey's candy bars or some of his confections over the years. Quality. That needs to be, if you don't have a Post-it, put a Post-it on your computer, on your desk. Start the day with quality of the experience. That is my best, because that's what magnifies people. Your product or service is your marketing. You know, Starbucks isn't just coffee, it's the vibe. People pay for the experience. $5, $6, $7 for one cup of coffee. You see, when you delight your customers at every touch point, like Ritz-Carlton does, you know, they empower employees to spend $2,000 to fix a customer's problem without even asking a manager. It's the experience they're creating, the quality of the experience. Word of mouth. It comes from a memorable experience. Chick-fil-A's My Pleasure service creates stories people retell. You know, Chick-fil-A, I was talking with one of my clients who runs a Popeyes franchises. He said, you know, Chick-fil-A is fascinating. They stay closed on Sunday, which is one of the busiest, if not the busiest day of the week for selling chicken. Yet they sell more chicken than every other chicken retailer on the 6 days of the week and closing on the one. Why? Because they created a quality of experience. And consistency in that quality builds loyalty and trust. Apple, their packaging experience is consistent worldwide. Customers know exactly what to expect because of the quality of the experience. In fact, I want to show you, this costs absolutely nothing. A lot of people have never seen this before. This is back in 1977. So Apple had just launched. They had just a three bullet point marketing strategy. 3 bullet points. Real simple. Empathy. Apple must truly understand customers' needs better than any other company. This focus ensures that products are built to serve the customer, not just to showcase technology. You see that? Focus ensures that products are built to serve the customer. That's strong. Is my product, is my service built to serve the customer? Number 2, focus. To do a good job on the things Apple decides to do, it must eliminate all other unimportant opportunities. This core principle has allowed Apple to maintain a tight and powerful product line. Sometimes we can get sidetracked. Sometimes we can go in all different directions. Stay focused. Stay simple. Stay focused on what works in your business. I've had people ask me, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? And it's not in our wheelhouse. And I'll say, no, I'm sorry. That's not in our product offering. We can't do that work, but we can refer a colleague here and there. Maybe it's, you know, we don't do audit. We don't do compilations. We don't do a number of things. And we refer them out to others and we get reciprocation. Why? Because that focus helps us to do a good job, because we eliminate unimportant opportunities. And then number 3, impute. It's a weird word. It means the company's presentation and communication must be as professional and creative as the products themselves, because people do judge a book by its cover. The way a product is presented, from packaging to advertising, will shape the customer's perception of quality. You see, friends, when it comes to marketing, and marketing, if you will, on a shoestring, there's all kinds of ways we can do that. But I hope today you've seen some new ways to really dive into how you create an experience that not only lasts, but an experience that people will find valuable and they will tell others because it's an infectious one. Any questions or comments? What do you say? What do you say, Yolanda? We've they're so amazed that there's nothing to say, right?
This was amazing. It was awesome information. I think they're just taking it all in.
That's right.
It was really good information, especially about marketing, how important it is to the consumer and to the business.
Nate, it was amazing. I'm gonna piggyback off of her. It was amazing. I'm on overload right now because you spit some knowledge today.
All right, that's what it's all about. Well, make sure you guys get that. Yolanda, I'm going to send that to you so that everyone can get that because I know it's a lot of information, so you have all the bullet points.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
Thank you so much.
You bet.
Hey,
Thanks, Josh.
I like the free stuff too, the things that you can do that come easily, you know, and also thinking about it as not a expense, but you know, something that is going to help, an investment, not an expense, an investment. Yeah,
that's right.
It's how you view it and the return on your investment, instead of I'm spending money I can't afford, but I'm investing in something that has a return.
Yeah.
And especially what your company did, it went from what, 300
to 1,500 in 1 year.
Come on, somebody, that's great.
And then we didn't change anything in terms of any of our service offerings. We just put ourselves where the customer was, and we spoke the language that helped them to understand how we could solve their problems. It's not complicated. It's just a little work.
Well, thank you for giving us the blueprint.
Amen to that. I want to see all of you thrive.
April said, great. Let me see, what did she say? I can't see. Anyway, everyone's appreciative of the
Awesome.
thing.
Yeah.
I can't see her comment.
Yeah, great information about marketing, gives a lot of great insight to move forward. Thank you so much, April. Thank you, Cameron. Thank you, Natasha, Daria.
Nate, can we end with anybody else giving some suggestions on some of the simple things that they've done?
I'll start. So my business has been out there for maybe 10 years now. Great customer service. People will never forget that. I provide great customer service. I want you to spend your dollars, your hard-earned dollars with me. So I'm going to approach, and have you had your taste buds tickled today with the pickle craze? That's how I lead. And people never forget that, because when I encounter them again, that's the first thing they say to me. That's the pickle lady. But yeah, just out here, just providing people with great customer service. It doesn't cost to be nice. And then you're trying to sell your product, and tell them, get more knowledgeable about your product. And that way, when they start asking questions, like my number one thing is pickles absorb liquor. So if you're out there having an adult beverage and you turn up a little too much, grab you a few chunks of the pickle craze pickles and you'll come on down.
Sounds good. Come on. I love that.
So that's me. That's me just being, providing and smile.
That's
right. Smile goes a long way. Trust me, I know this.
Yeah.
And to me, it's worked for me. It's opened doors to places like Ameren. I'm presenting at Ameren in October. I'm presenting at church functions. I'm doing women conferences. People don't. I was at the winery a few weeks ago. People don't forget that. People don't forget great customer service. And thank you. Thank you goes a long way as well, y'all. Y'all be blessed.
Oh, and another thing I'd like to point out, Nate, when you said, look at it as solving problems, becoming friend, not foe, or becoming ally, not foe. That was a great change of thinking of who you were. That was great. Thanks.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I used to teach a marketing class. It was an 8-week course, so there's so much more. But this is a great warm up. Also, maybe on a subsequent call, we could just talk about how to handle problems we face. Objections and whatnot. Maybe the second round when we do this, because we're going to do this another full rotation. And
Yes.
I'll bring up how to work through problems and how to turn that into effective marketing when maybe we haven't given the best of service.
That works.
Yeah.
All right, guys, what time is it? It is 12:58. We have time for one more question. Okay. Nate, do you have any closing remarks?
Oh, no, it's been a great crowd, great engagement, and it really is a blessing to serve and be along the side of all my fellow entrepreneurs.
Well, thank you all, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.